Oh, hi there. I didn't see you come in. Welcome to my house and welcome to our special, the Genest Christmas Special. There's going to be a lot of excitement, there's going to be a lot of adventure, there's going to be even danger, but I hope you're ready for it. Christmas is always a special time. It's been my favorite time of the year, partly because it's so cold and there's no obligation to have to go outside and interact with other human beings. And that, I think, is what Christmas is all about. Now, no, in all seriousness, Christmas is not about avoiding other people, except for this year, but it's about the birth of Jesus, which is a little bit ironic because Jesus was not born on Christmas Day. No, he was not born on December 25th. No, in reality, it's believed that he was born sometime in July, based on the whole story about when the census came out and what have you. Why do we celebrate on December 25th, though? Well, it's because that was the Roman holiday Festivus. They would eat a lot, they would drink a lot, they would party, they would jump into their swimming pools from the roof. It was a pretty wild time. And when the Roman Emperor Constantine said, let's stop worshiping Jupiter and let's stop worshiping Ares and let's worship Jesus instead, they said, well, we're okay, but can we still party? And so they decided that they would change the Roman holiday Festivus to Christmas Day. And thus it became very popular and caught on. Now, one of the wonderful things about Christmas is all the stories that are associated with it. And if you've heard that Andy Williams song, The Most Wonderful Time of the Year, they say there will be scary ghost stories and tales of the glories of Christmases long, long ago. And I've always found that strange because I've never heard ghost stories during Christmas. Like there are no stories about strange spirits stealing people's souls. That's just really not very festive, unless you get a really dark version of Santa Claus. But I'd like to tell you a story that you do hear often at Christmas. It's a tale by O. Henry, who wrote a lot of tales in the early 20th century that were rich with irony, and it was called The Gift of the Magi. So settle in, get comfortable, and I'll share the tale with you. There was once a man, and oh gosh, I don't remember the name of the man. Let's call him John, because everyone was named John back then, and his wife, Mary, because similarly, everyone was called Mary back then. And John had a prized possession. He had a prized possession, and that was his beautiful watch, a watch that was given to him by his grandfather. And he used this watch to tell time. And this is how John got to work every day. And everyone knew that John loved his watch. It was really amazing that no one had tried stealing it from him, but, I guess they were nice people. Now, Mary, she was prized for her beautiful long hair. She had flowing long locks of hair. Like not Rapunzel length, but a socially acceptable length, and they were very well taken care of. She used shampoo and conditioner. It all worked very well. So John and Mary, they were married to each other. They had a nice, loving relationship, and it was coming up to Christmas time, and they wanted to give each other the perfect gift. And unfortunately, Furbies were all sold out. And so John and Mary, they wanted to do something really thoughtful for the other person. So Mary, she thought that what John's watch could use was a chain, so he could hang the watch from a chain and look really pretentious. She said John needs a chain for his watch. So she had no money though. That was a problem. Back in those days, women often didn't work after they got married. So she thought I had to have to make the money somehow. So she decided, actually, there was a local creep who lived down the street, and he loved human hair. He just loved human hair. And one day she was taking a walk, and the local creep said, "Hey, I like your hair." And she said, "Okay, well, thanks." And he said, "Can I buy it from you?" And she said, "Yeah, absolutely. How much money do you have?" And he said, well, I don't have any money, but I've got this old chain that I found in a dumpster." And she looked at the chain, and it was covered in grease. And she said, "That's disgusting." And he said, "Oh, no. Don't be fooled by its outer appearances. This layer of grease is to protect the beautiful gold within." And he wiped off some of the grease, and it revealed a beautiful gold luster. And so without hesitation, she said, "Yes, I will agree to this exchange." So without further ado, he pulled out his garden shears, she turned around, and he lopped off her hair. So her once beautiful, long, gorgeous locks of hair were now just a few little sprouts that were coming out. And, for a moment she wept inside, a tear of bitterness, but she knew that it would be worth this exchange to give her husband this beautiful chain. Meanwhile, John was thinking of a beautiful gift for Mary. And now John, he worked at some advertising agency or some other white-collar job, and you would think he'd have saved up enough money, but he didn't really, this didn't occur to him, and he usually blew most of his money at the casino. And they barely made rent because he was, I think, a really problem gambler. It was a really tragic situation. They didn't really have the supports for that kind of thing like they do now. And so John thought, I need to get Mary a gift. And he said it would be beautiful. He was walking around the department store, hoping to get some free samples of the food they had, when he saw some beautiful, beautiful tortoiseshell combs, a set of combs. And he said this would be fantastic to get this for Mary. This would go so well for her to comb her beautiful long hair. And he said, well, how can I afford this? And he was considering. He asked to the department store. He said, hey, I actually have 2 kidneys. Could I give you one of my kidneys? And they said, absolutely, sure. We're a department store. Like, do you even have to ask? And they checked out his kidneys. It turned out that he only had 1 good kidney. His other kidney had really been wrecked from his years of eating too many yogurt-covered granola bars. You know, too much of anything, even a good thing, can really be bad for you. So it turns out that his kidney was not viable for sale, not even at a discount. It was very sad. I mean, he was hoping to get a Black Friday deal. But then he looked at his watch. All of a sudden, his watch gleamed in the light of the surgeon's flashlight. And he thought, that's it. And he said, can I sell you this watch? And they said, absolutely. And he said, how much can I get it to you for? And they said, well, we believe in a barter economy, so we'll just trade you the set of tortoiseshell combs if you're willing for your watch. And he said, that sounds like a fantastic deal. 1 watch for 4 combs? Perfect. So he had now these combs. So meanwhile, he came home, and it was Christmas Eve. It was Christmas Eve, so it was time to give the gifts. They really, both of them, held things off for the last moment. And he came there with his beautiful tortoiseshell combs to give to Mary. And Mary came with her chain to give to John for the watch he no longer possessed. And when they saw each other, when they exchanged their gifts, they were both in shock. They said, well, you would do this for me? You would sacrifice your watch for me to have combs? And John said, you would sacrifice your beautiful hair for me to have a chain? They thought, that's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. And they laughed and they embraced, for their love was more important even than the greatest gift. But now they wanted their stuff back. So they went back to the department store to get back John's watch. But sadly, the department store was closed. And so they thought, okay, well, we'll worry about that later. Let's try to get your hair back from the creepy guy. And so they went back to the creepy guy who was on the street. And they said, excuse me, my wife, she was so kind selling this hair, but can we get her hair back? And he said, yeah, I'm done with it. And so he gave back their hair free of charge. And he said, Merry Christmas. I know I'm having a Merry Christmas. They both found this extremely disturbing, but this was really wonderful. And they said, it's too bad. They explained the whole situation to him. And they said, you know what? I'd be willing to help you. I'll help you, all your Christmas dreams come true. And they said, well, thank you, kind sir. So then he dashed off into the darkness of Christmas Eve. And John quickly got into helping Mary tie the strings of hair back to where they had been cut off. It worked really well. It was quite a labor-intensive process, but they made it work. It was pretty special. Just as soon as they finished tying her hair back to her head, all of a sudden the creepy guy came. And he was holding the watch, and he was covered up. He had all kinds of cuts over his face. Because he had actually jumped right through the glass of the department store windows and gone back and got the watch. Now, no, don't be afraid. Don't feel bad for the department store, because he was actually quite wealthy. He was actually secretly the wealthiest man in town. So he actually wrote them a check for the cost of the watch, for the cost of the broken window, and an extra $1,000, because he was in the spirit of Christmas and generosity. And he said, here you go. Here's your watch back. And they said, well, however can we repay you? And he said, oh no, all in a good day's work. And with that, he dashed off into the darkness, never to be seen again. And so that was the tale. That was the tale of how sometimes it's ironic that we do so much for others that we sometimes get in our own way. But it was a beautiful story by O. Henry. I don't know about you, but all this irony has summoned up a mighty thirst in me. And I'd like to show you now how to make the perfect cup of hot chocolate. Are you ready? Well, you better be. Welcome back. Now, when you're having hot chocolate, you may want just a small amount. But that being said, it is Christmas, and this may not be the best time for moderation. Especially if you're young and have a high metabolism, you should probably not just have 1 cup of hot chocolate. You should probably have 2 cups of hot chocolate. Now, you can use water, but milk is so much creamier and thicker, it's a little bit more enjoyable. It's actually a lot more enjoyable. So I've poured here 2 cups of milk. And now for a typical microwave, I find 3 minutes is just perfect. You can do less, but then it's not so much hot chocolate as lukewarm chocolate. And you may as well not even bother, right? So always be very careful when using a microwave. There are many dangers to a microwave. Let me just put this in here. If you're not doing too much, if you're not overheating it, you shouldn't need to cover it. Now, microwaves, they use microwave radiation to heat up whatever's inside. That can be extremely dangerous, and in fact, that radioactivity, some people think that it can give you superpowers. But, I've tried. I've spent years putting my head against a microwave, and to this point, I don't have any superpowers other than reading messy writing. Yeah, still don't feel any superpowers, unfortunately. So yeah, keep away from the microwave. Some are worse than others at leaking radiation. Especially if you have an older model, it can be dangerous. It can be good to do some research into the radiation emissions of these microwaves too. Now, you might be wondering about hot chocolate. Who came up with hot chocolate? Well, we believe that the earliest originators of it were the indigenous people of Central and South America. When the Spanish came to Mexico and encountered the Aztecs, they had cocoa, they had cacao, these beans, and their form of hot chocolate was quite a bit different than what we have today. In fact, they often, let me allow you to see the microwave there, they would use pepper as well. And in fact, some cafes, you can actually get hot chocolate with pepper in it. Sometimes they'll even they'll pay homage to the Aztecs by calling the menu item just that. But let's see how much more time is on the microwave, shall we? 1.5 minutes. We're halfway there. And now I don't drink a lot of hot chocolate, usually just when it's very cozy in the winter, and so I sometimes forget their proportions. But for 2 cups of milk, then 3 minutes will usually do the trick. Depending on your microwave, you may want to experiment with that. Always better to err on the safe side, because if you overdo it, you can overdo this, and that will cause it to overflow. And in fact, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's 2.5 minutes, so every now and then it's good to peek and make sure it's not bubbling too much, because then you got to clean up the microwave, and then that's no fun at all. Yeah, it's not frothing up too much yet, so we should be okay. And now this, I'm actually going to be using this mug. It's not a Christmas mug, it's a fun owl mug, but it's special because a student got it for me, right? It's always very nice. Not that other people who got gifts for me, not that that makes it any less special. So hopefully no hate there. Yes, and so now the Aztecs, they typically didn't put sugar in their hot chocolate, but the hot chocolate mixes we have today often have a lot of sugar in them. And I'm going to use one. It's got bits of chocolate chip in them. It's kind of weird because there's the sludge at the bottom, but you don't have to worry about the sludge because it's a Christmas special. Okay, so take a look at this. It still tastes good, but you'll get a chunky surprise at the end. Okay, we'll get into that part in just a moment. Okay, we've got 2 seconds. Take a look at this. Yeah, oh yeah, it's bubbling, it's bubbling. Can you see the steam? Can you see the steam? Yeah, there we go, there we go. Yeah, so it's perfect, nice and hot, right? If it doesn't burn the back of your throat a little bit, it's not satisfying. Some people say that drinking hot drinks that will burn the back of your throat leads to more cancer, but that's a risk I'm willing to take. Hopefully the fact that I don't smoke makes up for that, right? It evens out. Okay, so the question is, how much of this hot chocolate mix do you want to put into this milk? You want to have enough that you have flavor, but you don't want to have so much that you get diabetes or that you have an upset stomach. Now, I used to love to have marshmallows in my hot chocolate, but ever since I was maybe, 15, I find that it's just too sweet. It kind of upsets my stomach. So no marshmallows here, but of course, if you like it, go ahead, make your own custom hot chocolate. Okay, So we're going to put the hot chocolate in right in the measuring cup, and then we're going to stir it up with a whisk. Okay, so let's take a look. Well, let's see what the instructions say. Because the instructions, you see, the corporations, they want you to use more of the hot chocolate mix. By doing this, they can sell more, right? Okay, so what do they say? They say use 2 tablespoons of hot chocolate mix with 3/4 cups of hot milk. So I've used over 2 cups. So in theory, I would use 5 tablespoons if I'm using their proportions. They don't say if it's heaping or not. Heaping is where it's over the top. But I believe what I've done typically is I've done 2 big heaping tablespoons. So I'm going to use this big one. I'm going to do 2 really big lumps, and that should be good. And if it's not, then too bad. Christmas is ruined. Okay, here we go. So take a look here. I don't want to put this on my laptop because it's already, it's already been through enough. Okay, here we go. 1. And so let me show you the heaping. So by heaping, we go like this. Okay. And 2. So sometimes you don't want to follow the instructions. Sometimes you got to play by your own rules. Okay. So anyway, put the lid back on. We don't want mice and vermin getting into my hot chocolate mix. Okay. And now it's time to whisk, okay? So sometimes you might want to use a smaller whisk, but this is all I have, right? So we're going to look right up here. And you can start just by stirring it a bit. That'll work. But if you really want to mix up, the small bits and get all the small chunks absorbed, then you really want to whisk like this too. So you kind of rub it between your hands, almost like you're starting a fire. And we are going to be starting a fire, right? In a sense, starting a fire in our belly. The fire of the Christmas spirit. Okay, so take a look. Take a look here. Okay. Look at that. Beautifully mixed. And you know what? I see a couple little specks here, a few dark brown specks, but those are, I believe, from those little chocolate chunks that are there. I think that's unique to this form of hot chocolate. And so we're going to now pour it into our cup. When you're transferring liquid from one vessel to another, the key is to avoid spillage. You have to be very decisive. You can't hesitate. Otherwise, it'll spill. It'll all end up on the counter. You just got to do one fluid movement. It's like Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. When he walks across that bridge of faith, if he hesitated, he would have fallen. And so too, if you hesitate when transferring liquid, you will fail. Okay, here goes. This is all the marbles right here. Okay. Okay, and not a drop spilled, but take a look at the sludge on the inside, these chocolate chips. So yeah, you can always eat, it's just chocolate. You can eat it, but I mean, it's really more work than you'd wanted, right? You wanted to just drink it all, not eat it. But anyway, you can of course experiment with your own kinds of hot chocolate, but and customize them with marshmallows if you wish. Put a little bit more, a little bit less powder. But that's how you do it. That's how you make chocolate and live to tell the tale. Hot chocolate, that is. Perfect. Now, one thing I've got to say, though. I made a mistake when I was talking to you about the Roman gods. Ares was the Greek god of war. The Roman equivalent was Mars. So I'm sorry for failing you. Well, once we finished with our hot chocolate, I will see you by the Christmas tree. And we'll explore a little bit more Christmas magic. Cheers. Welcome back, folks. This here is my Christmas tree. It's a nice short little artificial Christmas tree, only about 4 feet tall or so. Now, back when I was 3 years old and we lived in Malaysia, I once toppled this Christmas tree over. That's right, I was a destructive rebel, but I managed to turn my life around since then, for the most part. So you might wonder, well, why Christmas trees? Why do we just put up a tree in our house, whether it is a real or an artificial tree? There are many stories behind the origin of the Christmas tree. The first one I ever heard was about Martin Luther, that Protestant reformer, that he was out to cut a tree just down for some firewood, and that this giant tree that he cut down crushed a whole bunch of other trees, littler trees, But one of them, a tiny little sapling, survived. And he thought, this is a special little tree. And he took it and brought that in as the first ever Christmas tree. Whether that's true or not, I have no idea. But I like to believe it is. It's a heartwarming story. So you'll see many different kinds of Christmas trees. If you go to a lot of public spaces like offices or malls or something like that, they're really beautiful trees they put up, but they're often very sterile, right? They'll just have a bunch of random bulbs and lights. It's not very personalized. I think part of the magic of having a tree is getting your own ornaments that speak to you and your family's adventures, the things you've done, the places you'll see, and the efforts you made to do homemade ornaments for each other. Not that I'm very crafty, but I sure like getting them. And so just looking at a few ornaments, I'm not going to go through every one on my tree, but some are very special. Now here's one I did make myself. It's my kindergarten Christmas tree. Yes. Oops, and it looks like I took it right off. Well, at least now you can have a closer look. And I'd like to say I made it, but really it was more the parent volunteers who came in who made it for me. I'll put that back later. Now from here you can get a good glimpse at several of the other different ornaments. Some of them are different bulbs from places I've been. This one, for example, is, I don't want to break my ornaments on camera, that would be embarrassing, is from Norway. It shows a lovely little street scene. And several others as well too, or that other people have visited that I haven't, but I can now brag and say, yes, I've been to the Grand Canyon because, who are you to doubt the ornament? Other ones are special that are homemade, and one of them, for example, you can see it quite clearly here. The white bunny, that was a carving, wood carving my aunt made of my old pet bunny, right? So he continues to live on every Christmas on the tree. Very special. Just like the singers of old Christmas songs live on once again when we listen to their music. Another very special one was from my first year of teaching. I was at a school called St. Martha, and at the end of the year I got lifted. They said, goodbye forever. Thanks for your disgraceful attempts at teaching, but goodbye. But they gave me a beautiful, beautiful crystal ornament, and it's right here. And it's lovely how it catches the light. And I like to turn off the light sometimes before I go to bed and before I unplug the tree and just reflect on that year and how tough it was as a brand new first year teacher, but that I somehow survived. And it's all very emotional and sentimental, and I regret having told you that. Okay, now if we go up further, you might wonder about the tree topper. That's our surprise because it's out of view of the camera right now. Now when I first moved into this place and was looking for a nice tree topper, there were a lot of decisions to be made. Growing up, we had a beautiful glass top ornament on our tree when I was a kid, and it kind of reminded me of the Eiffel Tower, even though it really looked nothing like it. But I thought I'd love to get a beautiful glass topper just like that. But I couldn't find anything. They were all cheap and gaudy and plastic, and some of them were, you could plug them in and they would blink, and I thought that's so tacky. I don't want a blinking top to my Christmas tree. What a disgrace. Martin Luther would have none of that. He didn't have a blinking top to his Christmas tree. And I was just about ready to give up. I even went to some nicer, fancy stores, and nothing that really was perfect. But ultimately, I found my solution. The solution had been under my nose the entire time. It was a beloved ornament that my grandmother got at a garage sale. She would go around stumping the garage sales, going from house to house in desperate search for Christmas ornaments for my brother and my brother and me, and this one was perfect, and I decided it belonged at the top of the tree. So you may notice, if you take a closer look, there are quite a few rabbits here. Many rabbits, other animals too, like foxes, elephants, but rabbits, they've always been, well, for a long time, my favorite animal. So we go to the very top, and I guess I pretty much spoiled it now, haven't I? Okay, right at the top here. Right at the top, climbing on the top with a little harness to keep himself there, is our mountain climbing bunny. And he's got his little pair of pants, and he's harnessed there with a Christmas ribbon, and that's a special tree top for me. And so it's always very special, to look at your own tree and look at those ornaments and think, where did they come from? Who gave them to you? And every one tells a story, and it makes it a very special part of Christmas. And that even those who aren't here with you can still be with you through the Christmas tree. So, thank you for joining me at my house and my tree with my hot chocolate and my chair. Oh my goodness, you're really putting me out here for my Christmas special, a very Genest Christmas special. And I hope that you have your own very special Christmas at your household. And stay safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye, and Merry Christmas.